All right, welcome back to New to Hill Country. We're here today with Brett Dillon, who's going to talk about his work in video production and everything else that he likes to do. And before we get into that, we'll talk a little bit just about our sponsors. Our first sponsor is SPG Texas, premier training location for jiu-jitsu and for both adults and kids. We have the Growing Gorillas program for our kids, which is growing every day. Work on life skills. We work on, martial arts that's going to really help a kid who's getting bullied and stuff, get them out of dangerous situations. And we also try to make sure they don't turn into bullies.
Right.
But, and then for adults, everybody starts off in a foundations program, and foundations program is just geared towards getting people get up, get free, get safe, just get away. We're not trying to train people for MMA greatness, even though SPG has some really high level MMA stars. The goal is really just for everyday people to be able to use something practical and something that's fun.
And also our gym in particular, SPG Texas, has become really family friendly gym. So we have a lot of members who are just the whole family training, husbands and wives. Yesterday even, they were training together as partners, trying to crushing the husbands. That was such a great scene to watch. It was really fun.
I'm dreaming of some t-shirt logos like SPG Texas, choke your spouse.
Right.
Yeah,
but really I'm happy to see a lot of moms, wives who haven't really even thought of doing this kind of thing, but actually getting into this important technique learning activities with their kids and with their husband. So it's been really wonderful.
Everyone's got to work out. You might as well work out in a way that builds some skills that have value in other parts of your life. So something to think about. Our other sponsor is Element, the electrolyte mix. What do you want to say about that today, Kaylee?
Element it tastes good.
Yeah, it tastes great.
It's got
drinking some right now.
Right, just salt, magnesium, and electrolytes. Nothing really harmful or bad for you. So it's kind of guilt-free drink that I rarely get to have. Even coffee, I always have to have that guilt. It's like, oh, this is my third cup today. No. Sure. So Element is great, and also just it makes you feel great, really well hydrated, kind of gives you that boost of energy. So I strongly recommend it.
Yeah, I really always in the past just thought, I just have to drink a lot of water. But I've just seen it with the amount of training that I do and stuff. There's such a big difference. You can drink large volumes of water and still feel kind of depleted and not like you're really... I don't know. I think I didn't even know in the past that I was underhydrated. I thought I was hitting my hydration needs for the most part, but I would still feel really sluggish and you just kind of think that that's the normal sort of. And then it was when I started taking this Element, it's all that brain fog didn't need to be there, and this sense of just feeling kind of springy again and kind of like you're energetic again. It's really pretty powerful stuff.
I can tell you one thing that might be appealing to any of you out there who need to go to the bathroom 11, 20 times a day. If you drink a lot of water, that's me. I try to be good about drinking water, and just that means 20 trips to the bathroom. But Element doesn't do that. So that means that you're getting really, that water's absorbed in the system, and water just going through the system. So
not to make this the Element podcast, but just you used to always have headaches all the time.
I did, actually,
and I remember I said, drink some more water, and then it's you wouldn't, because then you have to go to the bathroom 20 times, and but you rarely drank enough water. And now I mean you have a headache here and there, but rarely, not like it was before, where it was it's 2:00 and Kaylee walks in the room and tells me she's got a headache. Okay, all right, normal. And then time for lunch, sort of, just really common stuff. So, anyways,
segue. About us.
Yeah. So Brett, tell us about you and Hill Country. What brought you to this part of the world? What do you like about it? And I mean, you can start from the beginning. You know, it was a cold night in March or whatever, and you know the midwife was called from the farm over or whatever. I don't mind. I like a good story. So,
well, I'm loaded up with good stories. I think so it's kind of funny the way I ended up here. I was at the time I was living and working in Chattanooga, Tennessee, with my wife and 4 sons, and I was doing contract work for a former employer, doing trainings on the road for them.
okay.
And so they would have one of their top trainers come, and we always did 2-man trainings. And so they'd come and we'd do this 1-week workshop, which they always insisted on the format where we'd start at 7:30 in the morning, we'd end at 9:30, except for Friday, we ended at 5, but the last 2 hours we were delivering it was a certification course, so they got the exam, and for some reason, we always had less than a 50% pass rate. And then me and the other instructor, we book off to the airport. He's going back to Atlanta, and I was going back to Chattanooga. And we sit there over beer at the airport, and he'd complain about the quality of the students we were getting. And I kept thinking, it's not about the quality of the students we're getting, it's about the way we're instructing.
Sure.
75% of student failures are the fault of the instructor.
Sure.
And giving too much information too early, giving not enough information at the right time, the whole thing. So I got contracted to do a training up in Dallas for him, and there was this old guy in the class, and I'm thinking, this is not a class. I mean, this is the job we're training people to do. Is you got to lug around a 35-pound fan multiple times throughout the day, and this is not a job for an old guy. I mean, what's he doing here? So I talked to him a little bit, and turns out he had just bought an insulation company in San Antonio, and he was interested in expanding into this line of work, and before he did, he wanted to know what they had to do. And so I said, okay, I'll teach you what you need to know. You can take the test. If you want, you can pass it. He did pass it. And then, he left. At the end of Friday happens, and off we go. And a little bit later, like a couple months later, he called me and he said, I need you to come down here to San Antonio, and I want you to start a company for me. I want you to write the operations manual and everything for that. What's that going to cost? And so I said, well, here's the deal. It's going to be a 3-month gig. I quoted the price. You're going to have to put me up in corporate housing, because for something that long, my family's going to be with me for the summer when they're out of, because they're bridging right when the kids were getting out of school, and then summer. And then, kind of going back into school. I said, so I need a place for my wife and kids and stuff. So corporate housing and season passes to Six Flags.
Nice.
And he said, okay. And I went, God, I knew I didn't charge enough.
Yeah, should have got the Schlitterbahn pass too.
I should have got more.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
So we came down, and I was running my consulting company in Chattanooga, and still doing work for clients up there, and then working down here, creating this company for him, writing all their operations manual, getting everything up in place and up and running. And then, and at the end of it, he said, I want you to run this company. And I said, I got my own company. See ya. I'm a little mercenary guy. I just come in, do the job, get out. And so I left, went back home, and then he called me a few months later. He said, I got a little project I need you to come down here and work on. We got in a little pinch with some stuff. I need you to come down here and clear things up. So I came down for another week. And this time he just put me up in a nice hotel. I didn't get seasons passes to anything. I just came down for a week, and then he offered again. I want you to run this company. And I said, I've got my own company. I don't work well with a boss. And he goes, I'm not talking about you being a boss. I want to be your business partner. I want you to run this company for me. And I said, okay, here's the deal. I do lots of consulting and training work as well, not just the actual work that we were training people for. So I'd have to do that. I said, well, we'll create a company for that. And I said, okay. So I said, the other thing is the wife and kids, they got to approve it. I'm not going to say one way or the other. I'll be taking a pay cut, but here's something. If I do this, here's something I want from you. And he said, what is it? And I said, I want you to teach me everything you know about the world of finance. So he'd come up as a CFO. He'd always worked in the finance end of things. And he'd come up through working as a CFO, and then he became a CEO. He was known as a turnaround CEO. So companies, when they would start getting into trouble, the boards would fire their CEO and bring this guy in, and then he would turn them around or divest everything, you know, but he would be the one making the hard shots and making those calls. And I said, I want to know what you know, because that's the one thing I lack, right? In the world of business, I don't know that. I don't know enough about that. So that's what I want from you. I want you to mentor me in that, if the wife and kids say yes. And he said, okay, that's a deal. So I go back to Chattanooga, and I get everybody at a coffee shop, and I said, you know, our oldest boy was going into his senior year, and he'd been at this school since kindergarten. It was a K through 12 school. And it was going into his senior year. He was guaranteed pretty much to be the valedictorian. And I was like, what do you guys want to do? I'm not voting, you know. So there's the 4 boys and the mom. What do you want to do? I just explained what was going to happen. I'm going to take a pay cut, but here's what I'm going to learn. And all the boys, every single one of them, said yes. And their mother said no. She did not want to move to Texas. And I was like, okay, well, you got outvoted, so it doesn't matter. We're moving. And you can either stay here or you can move with us.
Oh, wow.
So she decided to move with us. And so we moved here, and we ended up in Geronimo. That was a wild experience in itself, because we left Chattanooga the day we left like the 2 days before we left, the day before we left Chattanooga is when we discovered where we were going to be parking a truck when we got here. So we had a realtor looking in the Devera School District for a place to rent. And I had real simple requirements. It has to have a washer and dryer hookup, and it has to be in the Devera School District. And because my wife does not like clothes that have been hung on the line.
Okay.
I love the way they smell. My wife hates that smell. So I was like, okay, so it has to have washer and dryer hookup. So anyway, when we moved, we pulled up at this house, and the realtor says, hey, do you want to go look around through this house and check everything? I said, are there any other houses available in the Devera School District with a washer and dryer hookup? And she said no. And I said, then why does it matter what the house looks like, whatever anything is? Sign the papers right there without taking a look at it, off we go. And then I was commuting from Geronimo into San Antonio all the time. So I'm driving through New Braunfels and everything. And New Braunfels is just such a fantastic community. There's like so much stuff going on. And Geronimo is between Seguin and New Braunfels.
Okay.
And we're literally like the small neighborhood that I live in is right on that boundary of the extra jurisdictional territories of cities.
I see.
So one of my neighbors down the street from us, half of his backyard belongs to the New Braunfels extra jurisdictional territory.
That is funny.
Is in the Seguin. So they've been negotiating about who's going to annex us. And I think we're going to end up getting annexed by Seguin at some point. But working out here, it was just phenomenal. And I got into working in the San Antonio area. And that was in 2007. And then 2012, I bought my business partner out for the company that we'd started for my consulting and training and everything else. And then he ended up selling his companies in like 2 years ago and retiring. He doesn't do much now anymore. But the reason why I wanted to come work with him, even though I was taking a good pay cut, when he was younger, he was working for a regional hardware chain, and a couple of the guys that worked there came to him with a business plan and said, Ross, we want you to be our CFO. We're going to start this hardware store going for the do-it-yourself kind of person. We want to do that. And he looked at their business plan and he said, it'll never work. No, it'll never work. And he turned him down. And those two guys went off and started Home Depot. And ever since then, Ross was always like, I never want to turn down another opportunity like that because I thought it wouldn't work. So he was always taking chances after that because he played it safe that one time.
I see.
And like I was thinking today, I woke up and I was thinking, one of the problems, so many people don't make decisions because they keep thinking about, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? I make this decision. What if all these other things? And so then they delay making a decision until the event they were going to decide is already happening. And now they don't have a choice. And they've painted themselves in a position where they don't have choices that they had before because they were worried about all these other things. My wife asked me, do you think you're making the right decision? I said, you never know if you made the right decision until after those events have taken place.
Yeah, that's so true.
All you have to do is use the best information you have available, make a decision, act on that decision, tweak things as more information comes in. But that's all you got.
Right.
But dithering back and forth about making it, it's like, for heaven's sakes, just decide, and then you have to execute. Because the decision with that execution is just intention. It's that was a nice thing we wanted to do. That's great. But did you actually do it? Nothing matters until you've executed it.
Totally.
So that's why I wanted to work for Ross. I wanted to learn from somebody that had made big mistakes.
Sure.
And he's still a good friend. We in the COVID era, we don't get to have coffee anymore, but he just had a quadruple bypass like a year ago. So anyway,
That's a fun story.
And that's how we ended up here, mostly.
And now, what you're talking about doing consulting and things like that? What are all your kind of business interests now? What are you all doing?
It sounds like you're doing a lot of different things, so just
Right.
take it all out.
So my company is the Dillon Group Inc. And I hire polymaths, right? You have to be good in lots of things, and not just shallowly good, but deep knowledge. And we hire people for that. I look for that in people. And so right now we do management, marketing, consulting for small businesses. We focus on the service industries. And occasionally we get clients that are manufacturers. Occasionally we get clients, like I've had some really large corporate clients. But our target is small businesses, small service businesses. And primarily it's just on the management and the marketing side. We operate several brands. I like to call them teams. So we've got one team that is Provocative Insights, and it's all about solving those wicked problems that people look at and just go, there's not an easy solution to this. And we like problems. We like solving puzzles. We like doing that. And so people hire us to do that. And we come in and solve those problems. We do market research. We do all kinds of things to help figure out exactly what's going on. Because we take a free-thinking approach to this. We throw out everything we think we know, and we say, okay, now what is the reality of the situation? What is it actually? What is actually happening here? Because so many times people get caught up in their own business, they can't see what's actually happening. I was talking with a CEO earlier this week, and he's created a family-like environment in his business. At the same time, it's led to a certain level of familiarity that now some of the employees are taking advantage of them.
I see.
Just like families do.
Sure. Right. Just like families do, right?
It's like, and I said, well, a lot of people want to have a family-like environment. My business, we're a family-owned company. And we create a very, very family-like environment, but we have boundaries. And we stick to those boundaries. If you don't have those kind of boundaries, then you're going to end up with a dysfunctional family just like your regular family.
Right.
Except for now, these are the ones that are screwing up your business, not just your personal life.
Right.
So it's all about how do you create those boundaries and still maintain that friendliness and the sociability and all the rest of that you need. And so we spend a lot of time working with people to help develop those kinds of skills and things, executives and whatnot.
It makes a lot of sense to me, just years of being a teacher, professor and stuff. Just I've seen professors that in there it's usually not family but want to be everyone's friend.
Yeah.
They want to have, and they will get really good reviews typically and stuff like that, but then it's also like, do they really create outstanding educational do they reach outstanding educational objectives? And the answer is 99% of the time, no.
Yeah.
Like, because they're the guy that's like, hey, I didn't do my paper, is that okay? And it's like, that's cool, you know, and it's like, and it's always, that's cool, until suddenly it's like, hey, actually, grades for the entire semester were due last week, and you never got that paper in, and like, and then they're like, well, you said it was okay, and people, I don't know, I've seen students try to play that all the time on like the professorial side of it, like, and you really just have to have a pretty set idea, and you have to, like you said, you have to have the boundaries, like you have to define what are the boundaries here. It's good to have some leeway and stuff, but yeah, you can't be too much someone's friend. You have to sometimes just be trying to achieve a basic goal and everything.
And the same thing can be said for like parents too,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like some parents just feel like they need to be their kids' best friends, and that's good too, but parents are the ones who set the boundaries, you know, as the head of the family, and if you don't do that job well, then yeah, things can go pretty bad.
Parents got a parent.
Right.
Like, and
That's their
parenting's
job.
not always fun. Like there's times where it's like you have to be unpopular and tell the kid you need to stop that, and that's not good for your long term and stuff, and you can't see that now, but I'm gonna have to lay down the law here and like stop that, because my job, I don't know, I feel pretty strongly that my job isn't to be friends to the kids, is to be a dad to the kids, like, and it doesn't mean a dad is an unfriendly role, but it doesn't mean it's also like, there's just a difference between being a friend and being a dad. So
Yeah. One of my sons, when he was a teenager, he stood up and said, "You're supposed to be my friend." And I said, "That's not my job.
Right.
My job is to help you become an adult.
Right.
Totally.
Right.
That's my job."
Right.
Totally.
Nowhere in there is the word friend.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
No,
we're not
totally.
friends, so
Yeah, totally.
period.
Get your act together.
Yeah.
Here's what adults do.
Totally.
But I really like what just like what you were saying about kind of the teams and how to set the boundaries and stuff. Been kind of thinking about it, because we are operating this gym with just the two of us, and we play a lot of roles. We wear a lot of hats. You know, we're business partners, we're coaches, we're, you know, colleagues and all.
We sometimes sleep together too, but it's really occasional. Like, yeah.
But just like we started thinking about, like, you know, at one point we're going to have employees.
Yep.
And that's going to be a very different dynamics that we're going to experience. You know, we are managing ourselves now, and we're learning to work, you know, as business partners. That was a new thing too. But now we're going to work as an employer, you know, having coaches and stuff. So that's something that I definitely feel like that requires some sort of studying. You know, it's
Totally.
not a given.
Yeah, and it's one of the wacky things, because I got kind of hurled into that. I was self-employed. I was a one-man shop as a consulting company, and going from that to having, you know, a team of employees, you know, that it's like, one, I feel a responsibility now that I didn't feel before. It's just, you know, my family's future was the only one on the chopping block. Now there's 10 people's family's futures that are on the chopping block. But we ran into this, and I ran into this challenge, and I had to learn, because I came in and I was like, okay, well, this is what you need to do, this, because this is the way I would do it. It needs to be this, and this, because I know this works. And one of my older employees pulled me aside, and he said, "Boss, the bottleneck is always at the top of the bottle. And the more you insist on you being the person who's controlling what everybody else does, the more work you're doing that you don't need to do, and you're going to get worn out."
That's true.
And I sat back and I thought, you know, I show up here before everybody else does. I leave about 4 to 5 hours after everybody else does. I think he's got a point.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So I started pushing everything down to the front line. You know, give the decision making, you know, here's your sandbox of values to play in, right? So we established what our company values were. We all had input on that. I didn't dictate what they were. Everybody contributed to that process. We created that sandbox. As long as you make decisions within that sandbox, I'll never argue with you about whether you made the right decision or not. You step outside that sandbox, we'll have a discussion. But as long as you're making it within that framework of our values, may not be the decision that I would have made, but I'm not going to argue with you about it being a right or a wrong one. You know, you made it the best decision that you could make at that time, given your understanding of the framework. And once I started pushing all of that down, I noticed something happen. It was really funny. The customers started calling us and sending us cards, and they'd call us and say, "Man, your guys are just so awesome." You know? And I was thinking, well, why weren't we getting this before? And what had happened was this change in the attitude of the employees, because now they're empowered to go do their job to the best that they can do, not do something that they were told to do. They had that freedom, that latitude. One of them came to me one time and he said, I spent 3 hours at a job site working with a customer. And I said, okay. And he was like, it was like a 15-minute job, but I spent 3 hours there. And I said, okay. What was behind that? And he said, their HVAC guy didn't know what he was doing, and so I had to help him figure out what to do. And I said, do you think that's going to cut down the amount of re-inspections this guy's going to have? And he said, yeah. I said, do you think that's going to make your job easier in the future? He said, yeah. You think that's going to make us more profitable and productive? And he said, yeah. I said, okay.
Yeah.
You know, why would I, you know? And then when I left managing that company and went off on my own, they ended up going through a series of really bad managers. Horrible. They threw the operations manual away. They said, oh, we don't need to follow that. Everything just went, I mean, it was just ridiculous. And my former business partner called me back in as a consultant to get it back on track and everything. So then I had to go back in there after the culture, because they fired some good people and they hired some shady people, and now I had to come back into this company that I helped start and rebuild a culture. And it's like, how this is hard.
Right.
You know?
Sure.
So the first thing I did was I pulled out the operations manual and I said, okay, this is how we do things. And there's a reason why we do things this way. This is the most effective way for us to get our work done. Here's our values. Right? So when it comes to the procedures, it's the operation manuals. When it comes to the systems and the process, here's our values. You are free to make the best decisions you can make with what you have at the time. Right? Always remember, the customer's not always right, but they do pay our bills. And I took them down to Nordstrom, and I said, here's what I want you to do. I bought them all $50 Nordstrom gift cards. And I said, and I told my business partner, we're taking Friday afternoon off. We're all going to Nordstrom. And he didn't ask me any questions. I went down there and bought $50 gift cards for everybody. And I said, here's what I want you to do. I don't care what you spend this on. I don't care. Spend it on whatever. Don't spend it on whatever. I don't care. You can go home today and give it to somebody else for them to come in and spend it. But I want you to observe the Nordstrom sales staff and their interactions with you and with other customers. And I want you to think about how you can create that kind of an environment in the work that you do. And then I want you to tell me, I want you to put it in writing, what you're going to do as a result of this. What are you going to do differently? And I'll expect that email on Monday. And so we went down, they had a great time. The Nordstrom's manager, one of the managers, comped us their lunch at their cafe. That was nice. And off we went. And nobody had ever done that for them before. And this was the first time anybody had done this at the Nordstrom store. And I was surprised, like, why hadn't anybody thought of this? They're notorious for their excellent customer service.
So here's my question. How did you think of that? Because that's quite an unusual approach to really educate and train your employees in terms of their mindset. That's what you're trying to do, not really like tell them what to do, but more like kind of really change their mindset. So how did you come up with that kind of great
I've been
idea?
a customer of Nordstrom.
I see.
And I'd gone into this Nordstrom store when I lived in Southern California. I went into this Nordstrom store in Riverside, and I went in there and I was just looking for a white French cuff dress shirt. That's all I wanted. So I walked in there and met a sales guy. He fitted me, everything. Here you go. And I left. And then about 8-9 months later, I decided I want another one. And I walked in, same sales guy was there. And he saw me and he goes, Mr. Dillon,
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
Are you here for a necktie for that dress shirt or another dress shirt?
Oh,
Pair
wow.
of slacks? What are you
That
after?
is
And I'm thinking,
crazy.
what the heck? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And so that it's always stuck with me. And their like employee manual is one sentence: always use your own best judgment. So they push all of this. They empower all of those employees to do. There's one employee, he took in tires from a customer that was complaining about, she bought, this older customer, she bought tires and stuff like that from, Nordstrom doesn't sell tires. But he accepted the tires and gave her money on her account and everything for the tires. Because it was the right thing to do. She was a confused older person. And it's just the right thing to do. So that's the choice they make. And they don't get questioned about that stuff. I mean, it's super legendary. And so I thought, okay, if I can recreate that and get that kind of empowerment at the front lines, we would be unstoppable. And we did. We ended up capturing close to, I think it was 38% of the market share in the San Antonio market in the first 2 years. And we grew the company to, it was $1 million company. And this was all during the housing crisis of 2008, when everything went down in a handbasket. We were able to grow our business. We were charging higher prices than our competitors, and we were getting them. We were premium product, premium pricing, and customers were willing to pay for it. And all of our competitors couldn't figure out why. And then it boiled down to one thing. We wanted to know, what did the customer really want? And then we did our best to deliver that. Not what they thought they wanted, not what they, not the thing that we did for them, not the work that we do. So nobody really cares about the work that we do. They just want the result that work produces for them in their life. And so we would try to discover that. And so we'd spend a lot of time talking to customers and social situations, trying to figure out what is it that they're actually trying to do. We found out, for example, that one purchasing agent, his performance bonus was based on the number of dollar amounts of rebates that he got back from vendors for the company. That affected his performance pay. And so we said, okay. So we sold him a product, a service at $600 a unit. And then they paid us net 30, and then net 45, we would rebate him $150. And we ended up netting $100 more per unit in pure profit than our competitors. Our competitors were coming in and saying, with these low prices, well, here's what we want, because all they care about is low prices. The guy who's making that decision, the company may say we care about low prices. The guy who's making that decision is thinking about his performance pay. How am I going to get a good performance bonus? Well, I need to have rebates. He doesn't care what the price is as long as he's going to get a good rebate. We figured that out. We came in. We were $100 pure profit added every time our guys went out to one of his projects. Simply because we found out what that guy really was interested in. And, again, you have to think about who is the actual customer. Who's the person? So many people think the customer is the person who says yes. The real customer is the people who can say no. Because there's lots of people who want to say yes, but they don't have the authority. To actually be a customer, they have to have the willingness to pay, they have to have the ability to pay, and they have to have the authority to pay. So you can have people that have the willingness and the ability, but if they don't have the authority, they're not the customer.
Right.
And so you have to, the person who has the authority to pay is the customer. And so we always try to figure out who that is, what is it they're looking for? Why are they looking for that? What's driving that? What job is it they're trying to accomplish in their life? And I'm a big fan of Clayton Christensen's theory of jobs to be done, and as well as his theory on disruptive innovation. But we get into this and we're always looking at our customers going, what is it they're actually trying to accomplish? And so we don't give our customers what they ask for. A lot of times we give them what they need. But I've learned over the years that you just have to be, one person described me as ruthless in my honesty. And it's like, you have to be. And this is also a good reason to get paid up front. A lot of times people want you to just come in and say, oh yeah, everything you're doing is just awesome. You guys are so wonderful. I'll see you next year. Blah, blah. It's like, no. There's a reason you brought me in here. You couldn't solve your problems. So if you keep thinking about the problems the way you've been thinking about it, you're going to get the same solutions you've always gotten. You brought us in because you wanted those things fixed. So I'm going to tell you, here's what you're going to have to do to fix them. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, great. You're still going to have to do it to get it fixed. And too often people they're unwilling to accept that what they wanted to have happen in life wasn't going to actually happen. But they're always grateful afterwards when they get to see the results. But you run into those, there's a few of them out there that just, they're not going to be happy with anything. And so we weed them out up front with high prices.
That's not a bad idea.
Well, you get rid of a lot of tire kickers with a premium price tag. And a lot of times people don't understand, particularly in small service businesses, they don't understand. They're so happy doing all this work. But if you're so busy doing the work that you don't have time for a life, your price is too low. Raise your price. You'll become more profitable, you'll have more money, and you'll have more life. But their gut reaction is to drop the prices. Like, what is wrong with you? I've got a client in Alabama. She has not raised her prices in over 10 years.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
And I'm thinking, just think about inflation.
Right.
You're losing money every year. You have less purchasing power. Like, well, I'm happy. Okay. But
I can understand the psychology behind it. People are scared, right? Scared to lose the customers and not really being able to make the same money. But we completely are on the same page, And even like we talk about, speaking of the weeding out the bad customers and stuff, we really do value like building the tribe here, and we do see, because a lot of people come in and not everybody's gonna really plug into the tribe and the culture that we pursue. So almost like that consultation becomes some sort of a filtering system.
Interview.
Right, interview, like, I want you as long as you're gonna be in our tribe, and good addition to the tribe too. I mean, we want to provide good services and stuff, but we don't really feel like we need to get every single one of them, because at the end of the day, one person who doesn't really fit in the culture can really ruin the culture.
They can destroy it.
Exactly.
You put a rotten apple into a barrel of good apples, the rotten apple doesn't get better.
Right.
Absolutely.
That just never happens.
Yeah, as I'm looking at someone at the end of kind of a consultation and stuff like that, there is a bit of a calculation, just like, what are you adding to the gym? That's in my mind, kind of like, which will often determine how, not necessarily aggressive, but like how assertive am I going to be about trying to, like, how much do I want you to be in here is how much I'm going to push, basically. And it's like, for some people, it's like, they're like, oh yeah, I'm not sure if this way from, I'm like, okay. And so sometimes they'll say, well, but I would like to, maybe tomorrow. It's like, yeah, sure. Whereas other people, I'm like, let's try to figure this out right now, kind of, because, I see that they could add value to the other members and things like that. Like, you're going to fit in well here. You're going to like this place. Like, you're with the vibe of what we're doing, and, some people I'm like, you're a little outside the vibe of what we're doing. And like, so you might fall in step with it and kind of really enjoy it a lot, but like, I'm not going to push that too hard. So let's just, it just makes me a little less, I guess, aggressive, but like,
So, one of the things that absolutely impressed me, we've gotten a chance, I brought our Skaldic Media team in here to film some of the classes and interview some of your students. And what really impressed me was the quality of the training and the culture that was here.
Thank you.
And I mean, the quality of training is like, this was mind-blowing to me. And I've told you before, I am a catch wrestler. I say am. My last fight was in 1998, except for a street fight in 2007. But and my uncle, that was my mom's uncle, was a catch wrestler in Texas back in the 1930s with the carnivals.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always looked at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as lazy wrestling. And I'd watch the MMA fights and go, God almighty,
Sure.
this is horrible. And partly because of other things I did for a living, and partly and mostly because of the wrestling. I have had 8 concussions, and I've been knocked out once. And I got knocked out with a suplex, a German suplex,
Okay.
dumped right on top of my head, top of my head,
Sure.
in a ring in England. And that was a disastrous fight. But I almost won that one too. As I've gotten older, I've been paying a price for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I never intended to live past the age of 35. I just guessed the occupations that I was choosing, I wasn't going to live that long. There was not a big life. You didn't see a lot of old people doing that kind of work. And so I just figured that was going to happen. And then I hit 35, and I was like, oh, maybe I should slow down a little bit now. Let's keep going. And now that I'm in my 50s, I'm paying a serious price for that. And it occurred to me that catch wrestling for me is it's great. I love it, right? It informs my attitude as an entrepreneur. It informs it's so much of my identity is embedded in that. But the great eraser. But I'm at a point now where I need to be able to get away and not stand and fight.
Right.
When I was in that street fight in 2007, I got accosted by a street gang. And I thought there was only 5 of them, but the police said there were 10. I'm not going to argue with them. I felt like there were 10. And they surrounded me in the street and punched me in the back of the head while I was confronting this one. It's like, well, if you're going to try to hurt me, the head is the last place you want to punch me, because that's not going to do anything. Punch me in the kidneys, I'll drop like a sack of potatoes. But, but he punched me in the head. And so that was what it started off like. So then I get punched and turn around and go after that guy, and another guy behind me punched me in the head. So I never went down. And I fought my way and got my back up against this nightclub, against the wall. And then it was just a lot of dirty boxing and tie knee jabs and pulling somebody in and just beat the crap out of them and use them as a human shield. And so their buddies are beating the crap out of them, and and then they drop, and I grab somebody else and grab them by the ears and just go at it. And then I worked my way down to the corner of the building and then dashed out into the street and backed up, so we had about 10, 15 feet between us. And I was like, all right, nobody's behind me now. Y'all in front of me. Let's go. Let's go. You want to fight? Let's go. And they didn't want to fight anymore.
Sure.
And that took, it took like 30 seconds for the ring rust to fall off. But I ended up, in 2015, I ended up breaking a bone in my foot, in my right foot. I'm sorry, my left foot. And then in 2016, I broke a bone in my right foot. And then in 2017, I broke it again.
Jeez. What are you doing?
I was playing golf in a cornfield. And I'm a horrible golfer. And it was for a short film that this young kid was directing, and they asked if I would be in it, and I was like, sure. And so it involved me golfing out in this field. So I did it, and I hit the shot, and the first time ever, I actually hit a beautiful golf shot, ever. I mean, the ball went right where I was, and I was like, yeah. But as I did it, I heard the snap. And I ended up, I was in a weekend break between an extensive travel schedule, so I was like right back into traveling, and I ended up getting an infection in the broken bone, and I was working with a client in Baltimore when I got that infection. From infection to amputation was 8 days.
Wow.
And I ended up having half of my right foot amputated. So in addition to the 8 concussions, being knocked out once, which creates some balance problems, I also have 1.5 feet. It's hard to stay up and fight with 1.5 feet.
Sure.
So it was just one of those things. And the thing that got me, though, was everybody kept saying how resilient I was, how strong I was, and how brave I was. And it's like, this isn't bravery. This isn't courageous. I'm dealing with what I have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think I'm showing any extra courage because of this.
Mm-hmm.
This happened. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
What can I do about it now?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And you know, all these people running around, they were like, oh, I'm so sorry. I said, did you do this? You come over and hit my foot with an axe or something? No? Well, what are you apologizing to me for?
Mm.
You know? I didn't take any pain meds while I was in the hospital other than the anesthesia to knock me out during the surgeries. No pain meds afterwards.
Mm.
And I was kicked out of the hospital on a Friday, and Monday I was teaching class out of a wheelchair.
Mm.
And people look at me and they go, you know, you're not normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, I don't know what normal is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know. I don't know what any of that means. I don't know what that is. This is me. You know, I have a philosophy that I live by, and I live that philosophy. I don't talk about it. I don't preach it.
Mm-hmm.
I do it. And why would you not? Like, why would you worry about the consequences of decisions? Make a decision. Make the best decision you possibly can right now. Make it. And then go act on it. Because the only moment you have is right now. You only have this present moment. The past is gone. The future is not guaranteed. You got now. That's it. So do what you can do now. And then the next moment, do what you can do then. But now, what is it you need to do? Well, go do that. But so many people don't do that. But it's something about Texas seems to be a state, particularly when you get down to the southern part where it's a little more rural, more agrarian. It seems to be full of people who just go, yep, life is hard. Let's get on with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, and they've accepted one of the greatest truths of all. Life is difficult. It's nothing but a series of problems. Okay, once you figure that out and accept it, it doesn't matter. You just go figure it out. And you've got the discipline to do it. You've got the tools. Go do it. And that's something you guys are instilling in these kids down here, is that level of discipline that's going to enable them to tackle the greatest problems in life. But you're doing it, and they think it's a game.
Right.
Yeah.
They're having fun.
Right.
You know, that's awesome. There's so much good stuff happening out of here.
Thank you very much.
But I do feel that we were just talking actually that we feel good that we're in Texas, where we share a lot of values, because not, you know, everyone shares the same values in terms of, you know, educating kids and kind of values that they want to instill in their kids' heads and the way they treat children too. But I feel like we fit right in the culture of Texas.
Totally.
You know,
Yeah.
I want my kids to be tough. I know that life's gonna kick you in the head, you know, it's gonna happen, nobody can avoid it, and I want to prepare them for it instead of really shield them from it. And I think a lot of parents just, you know, raising them from the baby, you know, that's what we've been doing. So it hard to really disconnect that and change into a different mentality from shielding them from harm to really preparing them from, you know, adversity that will inevitably happen. So.
Yeah, you don't want to like raise them in a blizzard or something, but at the same time, it's like without that exposure to adversity, how could they ever deal with it?
But just like Brett was saying, we're not really doing it in a harsh way. We do it in a very natural, playful way, where kids can learn it very naturally as a natural part of life. You know, you fall, you come up. You get hit, it's okay.
You're okay.
Yeah, you're okay. Yeah. I always say, is it bleeding? No. Is it broken? No. You're okay.
I like to throw in, we do have some pliers if you want me to take it off. We can remove that.
You can chop
if
it
there's
off
a problem.
if that's what you
so
want.
I was like, my toe got hurt. It's like, cool. I have some scissors. We can get rid of that if that toe is not. I'm like, you got 10. I mean, I love to go on and on with them. So you have 10.
Well, when I had this happen with my foot, I came back from the business trip and I felt horrible, you know, and you know, Monday morning my little toe went black, and I told my wife, I said, go get the snips, I'll cut this sucker off. I know how to do that. That's not a problem. And she said, no, if it's really infectious, you know, it might spread. And I go, yeah, that's a point. So I
But
went there.
you did mention before in our previous conversation that you have a bit of a higher tolerance for pain. Is that a factor, you think?
It's something genetic. My older brother has a high tolerance for pain. My younger brother has a high tolerance for pain. And my dad
Okay.
he's dead now, but he had a high tolerance for pain.
So naturally tougher than the average, I suppose.
Well, and we were just raised, okay, it's not the actual pain that hurts, it's the fear of the pain.
That is so true.
Sure.
I completely agree.
And so then once you just accept that this is going to hurt,
Right.
and you take away the fear of it going to hurt, you just say, yes, this is going to hurt. And you take away that fear, it doesn't hurt as much as you think
That's
it's going
actually
to.
true.
Yeah.
And, you know, my older brother cut the end off, almost cleanly cut the end off of one of his fingers, and he went back to his house and super glued it back on, wrapped it in duct tape, went back to work. My younger brother got bit by a dog, clean through.
Oh my God.
Teeth met teeth through his forearm. And for a second, he could see clean through his arm. And then everything went. And so he went to the hospital and got shots and everything. And then
Back to work.
back to work.
Wow.
You know, it's like, okay, it's going to hurt. Let's go. Just yesterday, I was at my surgeon's office. Picked up another infection in here, in my hoof. And he did some work on it and everything, so I've got it packed with gauze and it's draining and everything. And one of my employees was with me, and she was like, "Does that hurt?" And I go, "Yes, it hurts. Of course it hurts.
Of course.
Yeah.
But, you know, what am I going to do about it? You know, you just accept that it hurts and get on with it." And then my doctor, this morning, she was telling me that you shouldn't endure pain if you don't have to. And I said, but if I don't endure the things in which I have a choice, will I break when I don't? See, so many people prepare for the competition. They prepare for the competition. They prepare for the competition. They're always preparing for this future event. I got news for them. The competition is now. You're in the event already. That day, that's just when you get an award. This is the competition. This is where the grind takes place. This is where you have to do the things that other people aren't willing to do. Small business owners, this is when, you know, it's not some future thing. Every single day you get in the arena, every single day you're in it. You're in it up to your eyeballs. You just need to recognize it, right? And you don't get a chance to slack. We don't get a chance to let up, you know? You know, when you're in a match and you feel your competitor kind of ease up a little bit, that gives you an opening. That gives you a shot. You take it, right? And every day we're out there doing our work, every day. And so many people just think about that competition thing as something down there.
Sure.
Congratulations, you're in it now. And I always approached my training that way. I always approached, you know, when I was a professional fighter, I did that. When I was doing security work in Central America, I did that. When I was a surveillance operative, I did that. You're in the game. Every single moment, you're in the game. There's no future event that you're preparing for. It's now. You prepared for this now.
I really like that. I think that really helps you. I really like that mentality. And also, just like you're saying, like, you know, we can always choose the reaction to an event that it's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
You know, getting hurt or getting procedure done, it's going to happen. It's not the choice, but you can choose to react differently. You can be in fear the whole time, or you can just choose to accept it and move on. So.
Yeah, I had about 12 hours to figure out what my life was going to be like. Because when I went in for the surgery the next morning, I didn't know if I was coming out with missing a couple of toes, if I was going to lose half a foot, if I was going to lose a lower leg, or if I just wasn't going to wake up. No idea. And I had to get comfortable with whatever was going to happen was going to happen. All of that is outside my control. All I can control is what I believe, what I think, what I do, and my emotions. That's all I got. I can't control anything else. But what I believe informs what I do. What I do, the action always precedes the emotion. And as long as I keep those three in the right sequence, and I'm acting based on right beliefs, or the best beliefs I have at the time, the emotions are going to be okay. And people think I'm a robot or something. I don't. I have emotions. I just don't feel the urge to share them on social media every time.
Yeah.
Or let emotion dictate your actions,
Oh
right?
yeah, because that's
opposite
that.
way,
Flip
right?
that. That's horrible. You're on a constant roller coaster of life.
Right, right.
So many entrepreneurs, so many small business owners are living on the emotional roller coaster instead of just saying, okay, what do I need to do? Let's go do that.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else will sort out.
Do the things that you can do.
Yeah, great lesson.
Yeah. How would people get in contact with you if they want to engage your services and things?
The best way to get a hold of us is at our website,
Okay.
thedillongroupinc.com.
Okay.
And the Dillon is spelled Dillon.
Okay.
And just visit us there.
So DillonGroupInc.com. Okay, and I'll put that in the show notes so people can easily just click right on that. And
Yeah, thank you so much. I love all the inspirational talks. A lot really touched the core, a lot of things that I'm thinking about as I'm running a business, doing a lot of new things. So, yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's no problem. This is basically what I do. Some people ask me, what do you do for a living? I said, little as possible. I have other people much smarter than me that do all the hard work.
very jujitsu.
All right.